Hey, we all have those days when we're really focused and we're working on solving a complex problem, or we're debugging an issue in our source code, and then all of a sudden we're focused, somebody walks in and they interrupt us. It happens to all of us all the time. I can't tell you how many times it happens to me daily in my current role. And I know that in some roles, this doesn't happen very often. Some of you guys have your own private office where you can close a door. But a lot of offices nowadays have these open office kind of plans where everybody's exposed. I mean, the person sitting right next to you can turn around and distract you, or somebody could start singing or humming to a song and you get distracted and interrupted. I know in my case, again, it happens all the time. I have somebody walk in and ask me a question regarding another project that either my team is working on, or I've advised, or maybe they're lost. They need some advice on how to approach a client on a problem they're facing that should be a support question, but I'm the closest person that they can ask, so they bring it to me. It's really hard when that happens because we do get really entrenched in these kind of problem solving sessions. It's difficult. If I'm facing a bug where there's like a huge memory leak that's causing my software to crash, and it's an intermittent crash. It's not something that we can regularly produce it. And it's something where I really have to step through code line by line, and I'm having to pay attention to memory registers at the same time. And then somebody comes in and distracts me with a question that's unrelated. I mean, it throws everything off. It could have took me 30 minutes, an hour, 2 hours to get to that point where I'm really, really focused and I know exactly what thoughts I'm trying to figure out. And now somebody's coming in and asking me a question that's completely unrelated because it's a priority question to them. And, it does happen. I want to talk about how do I handle that and how should you handle that? Well, in my case, it really depends. Sometimes I know who the individual is, and I know how important the actual question they're asking is. And in those cases, if I know it's a really high priority, or they come to me and it's a huge fire and everything's burning at the client's location and they really need to know this right away, then I'm like, okay, I need to stop and I'm going to figure out this problem for them, even if it means that I'm going to lose my productivity on this other problem that I'm trying to solve and I'm really neck deep in. And when that happens, if there's an emergency case where I have to take a break and I have to accept that interruption, then what I try to do always is I simply try to respond with, just give me a minute. If you can just hold on, let me just write down a couple of notes. I'm really focused right now. And what I'll do is I'll jot them down on a piece of paper, or I'll open a notepad, or if you're using a Windows system, just open one of those little sticky notes that Windows actually has in their install. And then I just try to jot down where I was, what I was thinking. That's the most important thing I've found to help me get back into the focused mood. When I try to come back and solve this problem, I usually try to say, okay, what I was doing is I'm trying to run through this step by step and line by line and debug, and I'm watching the memory registers to see what exactly is going on at this address space where we should be doing XYZ thing, but for some reason we're not getting the correct output, or we're not seeing the object transfer data correctly, etc. Okay? And then after I've written down my notes, it usually takes anywhere between a minute, 2 minutes, I'll turn my direction focus towards that individual and I'll say, what's up? So what's going on over there? Let's figure it out. Let's take care of it. Now, if I know that the problem they're having is not essential, what I try to do is I try to keep my focus on the problem I'm doing. And that is very hard to do, especially in my role where I am a very hands-on implementer. I do contribute to source code daily, but I also run a team and I try to field any distractions that are going to hit my team before they hit them. Or I try to make sure that my project managers are fielding those questions properly and figuring it out on their own prior to going and distracting them. And sometimes that means they need to ask me first. If I know it's something where it's not a high priority, I will try to ignore or let the person know that we should talk about it later. I'll give them a quick, hey, I'm really focused. Can we chat about it in maybe 30 minutes or an hour? Can you just put something on our schedule for later today or tomorrow morning? Those are the types of things I'll try to respond with. And I really do recommend you do that, because when you're focused, it's very hard to come out of that focus and get back into it quickly. And it's just important. If you're on a roll, keep that roll going. So that's what I'll try to do. It's very difficult. Early on in my career, I found it tough to ignore people when they're trying to talk to me, when they're trying to joke around, or when they're asking me questions that I think that they should either be able to do a little bit more research on, or maybe don't need to ask at this exact moment because they see that I'm focused. But that's part of the nuisance of having a open office type setting. If all of our desks are exposed, other people don't know how focused you are. It's hard for them to gauge that. They just see that you're working and you're looking at your monitor, and maybe they don't think you're focused. Maybe they see that you have on one of your sub-monitors a YouTube window up with music playing or Spotify, and they think that, oh, you're just messing around. They can ask you a question at this exact moment. Or it's possible that they don't know how hard it is to focus as a developer or as an engineer or an architect, etc. They just don't have that industry experience to know the difficulties behind that. So don't kind of hold it against them. Don't beat them up for distracting you. It is annoying. We all get that, but that's how being a professional is. And the thing I don't recommend you doing is constantly allowing people to distract you. Now, that is another difficult thing to do, especially if you're in a role like mine where I'm fielding and trying to protect my team so they can get their work done. But sometimes it's going to happen, and you need to learn to see that that's happening. You're not getting any work done. Your productivity is going down, and then adjust it. You can't blame everybody else for distracting you. That's just not going to work. You need to put your foot down and let people know. If you need to, schedule time on your calendar or put a sign up. If you're in an open office, you can't really put a sign up very well. You don't have a door to put it on. You don't have a lock. You don't have any of that. Put some headphones on, and then if you need to, put a sign on top of your little workspace, or put it on the back of your chair. Shoot, put it on the back of your chair, or put it on your back or something like that. Wear a hat and put a Post-it on the back and say, don't distract me. Do what you need to so you can get your work done. People will begin to respect that. When people come and bother you, if it's somebody that's doing it a lot, be nice to them. Let them know it's like, hey, I was really focused, and next time if you have another question, if you can, just Slack me. That would be helpful. If it's extremely high priority, send me a message and just put important or put high priority. And then as a last resort, come and distract me. But if I'm really focused, it's difficult for me to get back into it if I'm always getting kind of sidetracked. Just let them know. They're going to understand. Trust me, they're just trying to get their work done. And they're probably having somebody else on their case who's asking them to get this done. So it's just going to be a mutual understanding. Now, if they don't respect that, then you may want to look at other ways to make sure you get your work done, or that office environment may just not be productive. So you need to kind of gauge that. I'm not going to tell you that you should escalate it to your supervisor and let them know necessarily. That's your call. Depending on the workplace you're in, you may do that. You may not. If you don't like the workplace at all, you may consider going and finding another job. Anyways, that's just the way I would work. All of us have these distractions in our daily work life. We just have to handle them in the right way, and you only learn to do that after having experience doing it. If you're not used to saying no, learn to say no, or learn to ignore people and ask them to come back later. People will learn. Don't be shy about it. They're not going to be offended. Hopefully not. If they are, you can explain it later, and they'll respect you for that. All right, guys? If you have any questions, any kind of comments or feedback, or any suggestions on how you handle interruptions in your daily life as a software developer, please do post them in the comments below. If you are not subscribed, I'd really appreciate it. Please do subscribe and hit that bell button so you're reminded when we do post new content. Have a good one, you guys.